How do you convey charm in music? That feeling, that sensation. You can sense it in the romantic soul of Al Green's Let's Stay Together.
I'm so in love with you.
It's in the floaty playfulness of Akiko Yano's Ai Ai Gasa. Or in the airy nonchalance of Blossom Deary's I Wish You Love.
But most of all, when snowflakes fall, I wish you love.
Being charmed by a song is one thing, but intentionally and authentically imbuing your music with this feeling is a whole different accomplishment. Though it's one that I think is achieved effortlessly on the latest album by singer-songwriter Clairo, which she of course titled Charm.
I just found that word to be so interesting. I really liked the idea of the gray area and the buzziness that two people can feel when they're being charmed by each other.
Like basically all of the modern albums I featured on this channel, Charm has an authentic vintage quality to it, sounding like it was recorded in the early 70s by top-tier funk and soul session musicians. This is no pastiche, however. Charm is an unmistakably fresh and unique album that I think listeners of all generations will appreciate. But before we dig into this record and explore why I think it's one of the best releases of 2024, let's briefly learn about the artist responsible for this wonderful LP, Claire Cottrill, otherwise known as Clairo. Born in the late 90s and living between different American cities.
I was born in Atlanta, and then I moved to Seattle for 3 years, and then I moved to Carlisle, Massachusetts, and then I moved back to Atlanta.
Clairo was musical from the start.
I grew up in a really musical household. Your Mother Should Know by the Beatles. My mom used to sing that to me.
Your mother should know.
She was most directly influenced by the contrasting musical tastes of her parents.
My dad introduced me to a lot of 60s soul, Brenton Wood and Al Green. And then my mom was like the cool girl who introduced me to alternative music, Mazzy Star and Cocteau Twins.
And this formulated an interest in posting her own music online, which she began doing at the age of 13. She then spent her teen years posting songs and EPs on websites like Bandcamp and SoundCloud before she struck big in 2017 when her song Pretty Girl went viral on YouTube. Accompanied by a delightful music video filmed on a MacBook's webcam, Clairo's charming authenticity has been evident from the start. Pretty Girl is a quintessential bedroom pop song of the 2010s, which Clairo admitted was made entirely in GarageBand with a MIDI keyboard and drum machine from an old Yamaha PSR 170. And hey, if Clairo got her start on GarageBand, then there's no reason why you can't as well, thanks to this video's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives where you can gain knowledge in just about anything from calligraphy, cooking, and yes, even GarageBand, where Mike Barnes' excellent beginner's guide on the Mac teaches you the anatomy of GarageBand and then helps you build and record an entire song from scratch. And hey, if you prefer iOS or if you instead want to learn how to edit a podcast on GarageBand, Skillshare, with their thousands of classes led by industry professionals, has got you covered. Skillshare is great for beginners, but I've also found it really useful for sharpening up old skills too. Like I used to take a lot of film photos, but then for most of this year I hadn't picked up my camera in a while, so I was feeling less confident shooting an entire roll. So I have loved getting reacquainted with shooting on 35mm thanks to Satya Peacock's film photography class, where he teaches you the fundamentals of metering, film stocks, shutter speeds. His breakdown on exposure bracketing was super helpful for me because I like to shoot in areas with a lot of high dynamic range, and now I'm happily taking bigger risks with my photography thanks to Skillshare. Gardening, dancing, learning a language, Skillshare has it all, and right now they're offering a really great deal. The first 500 people to use my link in the description will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. So why not get started today? There's no time like the present, right? Anyway, thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring, and now let's get back to the rise of Clairo. After the viral success of Pretty Girl, which had amassed 17 million views on YouTube by 2018, Clairo was soon signed to indie label Fader and released her first official EP, though her 12th overall. Diary 001 from 2018 is a collection of sugary R&B songs that retain a nonchalant bedroom pop aesthetic both in production and in Clairo's laid-back vocals. One of the songs from the EP, Flaming Hot Cheetos, a lo-fi beatsy kind of track, was noticed by ex-Vampire Weekend member and producer Rostam Batman Glige.
He had messaged me that he had a show at Brooklyn Steel, and he had got his orchestra to learn a string version of Flaming Hot Cheetos, and he wanted me to come perform it with him.
Who went on to produce with Clairo her debut album Immunity in 2019, which brought the singer out of her bedroom and into a more indie, soft rock and electronic R&B aesthetic.
You know, as we worked more and more together, we kind of just learned that our technique is similar, and I kind of started bringing him songs from other studio sessions.
The songwriting on Immunity explores themes like self-doubt and insecurity, but also sees Clairo coming to terms with her own bisexuality, as heard on the critically acclaimed single Bags. But Clairo's fast rise as an indie darling soon began to wreak havoc on her mental health, particularly when she was touring her follow-up album, Sling.
I don't think I was in a happy place for a long time surrounding music. Most of my career up until this point has been mentally pretty bleak.
And once the pandemic had hit in 2020, Clairo poured her pain and her anxiety into her songwriting, where she had amassed close to 200 songs, most of them written on piano. Determined to evolve her sound and explore new parts of her psyche, Clairo took her songs and escaped to the mountains of upstate New York to record her second album, Sling. This time co-producing with Clairo was Jack Antonoff, who had a different sonic approach to Rostam. Instead of throwing a bunch of reverb onto Clairo's delicate voice, Antonoff prioritized lush harmonic vocal stacking, creating a gorgeously atmospheric tone to the album.
We spent hours and hours and hours just doing stacks and stacks and stacks. It's the whole orchestration, but it's just her voice.
Sling is a beguiling concoction of folk, jazz, and baroque pop, featuring Elliott Smith-inspired guitar and vocal work, ornate strings, and gentle piano. The production may be warm and cozy, but the lyrics are pensive and melancholy, as Clairo ponders domesticity, depression, and one day becoming a mother and caregiver herself. The album received universal praise from critics, and Cottrill's fanbase grew even bigger as she went on to tour the album in 2022.
And music has been my dream my whole life, so it is really odd hearing all of this come out of my mouth, but I am second-guessing it a little bit. I'm just thinking about what's next.
In the meantime, Clairo kept up her gig as occasional resident host on the online radio station NTS, where she would share her diverse, and might I add, excellent taste in music.
You're listening to
Baby Sex Radio.
And on her April 2024 show, Clairo interspersed songs with voice notes people had sent to her all around the idea of flirting.
So I've been trying to flirt with this girl, and it's not been working.
Flirting and attraction became the basis for Clairo's next album, which she had been teasing on her Instagram throughout early 2024. The album would be called Charm, and eschewing her record label, was self-released by the singer on July 12th. The fans had survived the Clairo drought. Charm is a very different album to Immunity and Sling. For starters, it forgoes much of the self-doubt and concern about the future, and instead sees Claire get back in touch with her femininity and sensuality.
Writing about sensuality or exploring my sensuality through music, it was important for me to do. There's something about reconnecting to my individuality or maybe my femininity that I had lost, that I now feel closer to.
It also explores some of the most intoxicating sounds of her career. Teaming up with producer Leon Michaels, a founding member of Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings, Michaels had produced for artists like Lee Fields, Norah Jones, and helped to imbue into Charm those elements of soul, quiet storm, and jazz that he's become renowned for. But it's also the supremely talented session musicians who play on Charm that really add to its authenticity.
Leon had brought in Homer Steinweiss and Nick Mavshon, legends. Both played on Back to Black.
The album was also recorded on analog tape, which only adds to the vintage textural quality of Charm. Like I said at the top, it features an early 70s jazz, funk, soul aesthetic that blends perfectly with the playful and flirty vibes of much of the record. This is evident right from the lead single, Sexy to Someone. You've got these drums that sit somewhere between a hip-hop beat and Ringo Starr's understated dampened signature. There's also this melodic bass and Leon Michaels' commanding piano line too. This opens the floor for Clairo to let us in and tell us how she's currently feeling, which is actually pretty straightforward.
Sexy to someone is all I really want.
After spending so much time alone in her home on a mountain, Clairo's longing for human connection, wanting to get out of the house, wanting to feel sexy to someone.
Nothing more, nothing less. I've thought walking through the park.
Whether it's walking through the park, checking out of a hotel, Clairo is very clear with her intention, with the same lyrics beginning both the verses and chorus.
Sexy to somebody, it would up me.
It's a relatable and endearing song, topped off with some classy woodwinds that could be real or they could be a flute setting on a vintage mellotron. Either way, it's a fabulous debut single that sets the tone perfectly for the album. Following Sexy to Someone is track 3, Second Nature. This begins with some more impeccable percussion and Michael's jazzy piano as Clairo da-da-da-dums her way through the intro. Clairo said she was really inspired by the silliness of Harry Nilsson when making this album.
That's the way it's going to stay.
As well as the Beach Boys' Smiley Smile album.
If I only had a little.
And I think this track is where we can really detect some of that silliness, especially when we tune our ears to the sound of Clairo softly laughing in the background. It's the kind of laugh that comes out when you're flirting, when you're making a playful connection with someone, when you're being charmed. I think in this way, Second Nature truly embodies the spirit of charm, perhaps more so than any other track on the album. It's that moment when you're with someone you like and your heads are suddenly quite close together and you're seeing, as Clairo sings,
Kismet sleeping on. It's second nature.
The strings that enter during the chorus allow for the romance to really blossom. But then the bridge slows things down to a waltz which seems to cut through the floating for Clairo to speak to this love interest more directly. Before it breaks back into the gooey-eyed teasing from before. The playfully ascending clarinet line in the instrumental break is like feeling the attraction levels multiply. Great track. However, it's not all giggles and kismet. The second single for the album and Charm's opening number, Nomad, is more contemplative and confessional, almost picking up where Sling left off. Beginning with a dreamy slide guitar and earthy upright bass, the touch-starved Clairo welcomes us into the album by singing about preferring to be alone than being reminded of the pain of love.
I'd run the risk of losing everything.
An encouraging finger-picked acoustic guitar soon joins in to create an overall gorgeous sonic palette. This reflective mood returns on Charm's fourth track, Slow Dance, which begins with a delicate repeating piano melody before Clairo's equally tender vocals enter to accompany the track.
And the moon begins to hide.
The synth in the post-chorus adds some gentle friction as Clairo questions why this person always has one foot out and the other crawling into bed.
What is it that's keeping one foot out?
Why can't they simply stick around after they've slow danced together? It's about feeling something wonderful with someone, but sensing that they have more important people in their lives who they'd rather be with once the candles have burnt out and the record faded down.
Record has faded down. I know you've got people to turn to.
Very cool instrumental on this one, and Clairo's backing vocals blending with the flutes is pure velvet.
And two candles burn out and the
Closing out side 1 on the album is Thank You,
sometimes I wonder if you were the one when you
which to me reads like when you're still so connected to that ex-lover who is able to see you for who you truly are, but then they leave and now you're desperate to have someone see you in the same way. And even when you know it's not going to be the same with someone, even when you know this will end with you thanking them for their time, you do it anyway because you'll do anything to bring back that feeling. The opening instrumental demonstrates this trajectory with this repeating upbeat melody which then drops off a cliff and tumbles into oblivion. As Clairo sings before the chorus kicks in,
but I don't end this way. I'd prefer someone doing me.
it's a very honest track, very introspective. Side 2 opens with the hazy and delightful Terrapin, which opens with a crack of the snare drum that fellow creator at lovey.world noticed bears a striking similarity to the intro of this 1975 soul track.
Which you can also hear on this love song.
The song also featured in Clairo's NTS radio show in January 2022, so you can definitely see the influences forming around here. Really great pickup. Also, the keys and piano on Terrapin sounds so wonderfully vintage, like the way the piano occasionally bends. Like you can hear the fragility of the tape that this was recorded on. It sounds straight out of 1972, great attention to detail, and Terrapin remains one of the instrumental high points on Charm for me. And according to Clairo via Interview Magazine, quote, "That song is about getting drunk with a friend and just looking at them and being like, I love you.
We can go wherever we want.
Maybe you never say it to each other, but you say it then, and it's this magical moment where you're covered in love, you're drenched in it, and nothing matters. Like, why do we shy away from this feeling? Why don't we say this more?" I think the song also made me realize that some people put a lot of weight on the word love and never say it, and then some people use it so freely where it loses its meaning.
It's a simple thing, we're all afraid and shy away.
And that dreamy, loving feeling is really palpable here, as is the wooziness from the alcohol. That wobbly piano fits even more perfectly. I love it. I also love the true breakout song from this album, Juna. Now, Juna wasn't even released as a single, but I would say has become the most popular track on the album. I mean, Clairo even made her first official music video in 6 years for it. Shot on film too. But what makes Juna so good? Well, there's of course the immaculate instrumental, complete with more dynamite percussion, including some groovy bongos and dreamy synth chimes. But for me, it's all about the mood this song strikes. Juna moves beyond charm and arrives at a point where attraction reaches pure desire. Like on Second Nature, it's that feeling where the intimacy is so strong, there's no pretending it isn't. This person knows you.
And I just might know you too.
Now, I've already mentioned in this video that Clairo's vocals have always been rather soft and, well, she's definitely not a belter, like she's not Adele.
I've never raised my voice.
And to be honest, I've never really been into that whisper singing that's been so pervasive in pop and the indie scene for the last however many years. But there's something about Clairo's vocals that hits different. Because yes, her voice is very delicate, like you probably couldn't hear her if she was standing more than 2 feet from you. But I would say that's the point here. One of the key themes of this song, of this album, is intimacy. And this charming effect only works as well as it does because Clairo sounds like she's singing only inches from you, and you're leaning in because it's something she only wants you to hear. There's actually more to this. So I mentioned the artist Blossom Dearie at the top of this video.
Hello, my name is Blossom Dearie.
She's actually a singer that Clairo is really influenced by. And quoting the back of one of Dearie's albums, Clairo highlights the description that Blossom Dearie sings like she's sitting in your lap. And that description changed the trajectory of Charm as she goes on to say, quote, "There's something really alluring about describing a vocal like that. I was like, I want to do something like that. I want them to feel like I'm in their lap, telling them things in their ear." And in that way, Clairo's voice becomes an instrument of its own to enhance the warmth and intimacy.
Why would I let you in?
And when she debuts her mouth trumpet sound for us all, this only emphasizes the point further. The mouth trumpet is the standout moment on the track for me. As soon as I heard it, I was like, this is giving Paul McCartney all the way. I also love how Clairo's mouth trumpet then transitions to a real trumpet. Like, this is whimsy, this is pure attraction, and we're all helpless to resist. Then we have the song Add Up My Love, which features a more driving beat and an emphasized guitar riff. It's where Clairo reckons with a breakup and wonders whether the other person misses the little moments they shared, like, was the relationship worth the heartache? Fantastic groove to this track, and the flutes are fluting harder than ever. Following that is the song Echo, where an intriguing acoustic guitar line tiptoes over a suspended vintage organ sound as Clairo ruminates on a love going nowhere. The instrumental pulls us into a gently psychedelic daydream. Clairo's singing here reaches a new level of quiet and soft, but again, it all really benefits the track.
There's a secret I can't keep from you.
In fact, her vocals are reminiscent of another one of Clairo's key influences, Margot Guyon.
Something's wrong with the morning. He never called to say.
Who Clairo mentions in Interview magazine, quote, Margot Guyon is a really good example of someone who's sexy without you knowing anything. Her vocals are very close to the microphone and she's talking about love, but it's never explicit. There's something that's left to be desired, which really resonates with me. I want the audience to understand that with me, it's never going to be fully given. The penultimate track, Glory of the Snow, features an 808 sounding drum beat that adds a lovely hypnotic edge. The track also bears a striking resemblance, both in sonic quality and chord progression, to the 1976 song Seabird by the Alessi Brothers.
There's a road I know I must go.
For a moment I heard you talking to me.
In fact, the Innovations released a cover of the track in '77.
Seabird, seabird, fly home.
And both Clairo and producer Leon Michaels are huge fans of this version. The title comes from Lucille's Glory of the Snow, a flower that blooms in early spring which only shows up for a short while before going into dormancy until the next spring. I think this is a fitting metaphor for charm, where we have these fleeting moments of connection that burn bright before wilting soon after. Or, on a more upbeat note, flowering into a bright future after a dark period. To me, this is also Clairo coming to terms with her future and how she can't be a nomad forever. Eventually, she's going to have to push on that door, the one that reminds her of her old love that she mentions in Thank You. But perhaps, if she pushes on it this time, there'll be someone looking for her as well. The album closes with the track Pier 4, which recalls the Elliott Smith melancholy of Sling, but carrying with it the themes of charm, touch, intimacy, connection.
You'll have no reason to be sad at all.
We hear only Clairo's voice and a gentle acoustic guitar, and it's where we learn that this touch, this intimacy that Clairo yearns for, is not always something that she herself can handle. All of a sudden, she's too tough, as she sings,
It's something you've done. Open my hands and I know I've shut some.
Is this person the one we're meant for? Is it worth wanting this feeling of touch and connection? What's the cost of it, of being loved?
When close is not close enough.
I think Pier 4 as a closer makes for a satisfying bookend with Nomad at the start. Both songs explore the simple act of touch, but where Nomad contends with escaping the messiness of love and being alone, Pier 4 more directly weighs up what it means to love and to be loved in return. And speaking of love, I love this album. I think in a year that's been so jam-packed with excellent and, quite frankly, horny pop albums, Clairo manages to bring something entirely different to the table. As she said to Remy Wolf in Interview magazine, that's my version of horny. Like if the 2024 pop landscape was a party, you'd have Charlie XCX hosting, probably DJing as well, Chappell Roan's lighting up the dance floor, Sabrina Carpenter's out by the pool lapping up the attention. But then you head further inside, down a corridor, where you eventually find a quiet, cozy room, where a Roberta Flack record's gently spinning its grooves. There's candles, maybe a fireplace, only a few partygoers drinking wine, and over in the corner are two people sitting very close to each other, heads together, knees touching. There may be a party going on, but the only thing on their mind is the person sitting opposite them. That's charm. Well, hey everybody, thanks for watching this video on Clairo. I hope you enjoyed it. This is now my third video discussing a modern artist as part of my Listen to This Album series, which I've now made into a playlist on my channel. If you're new to this channel, maybe you're a Clairo fan, but you made it to the end of this video, hi, I'm Elliot. Thanks for watching the whole thing, and feel free to check out more of my videos. You might like the one I made on Wise Blood from a couple years ago. Either way, let me know what you think of this album, what are your favorite tracks, and maybe share your comments on some other albums or artists that bear a similarity clarity to charm, I would love to hear your thoughts. Now, one more thing. If you're a long-time subscriber to this channel, you might be wondering why it's taken me several months to release a relatively short video on Clairo. Well, this year I've been working on actually the biggest video I've ever made for this channel. I don't know exactly when it's going to be out, but rest assured, I have been busy making videos, busier than ever, in fact. In the meantime, I've recently made my Patreon subscription a lot cheaper, so if you've been meaning to join but found it a little too pricey, now might be the time to check it out again. You can watch a monthly bonus video from me for $4 American a month, so take a look, link is in the description, and you can cancel anytime, no lock-in fees or anything like that. And finally, thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video, and don't forget the first 500 people to use my link in the description will receive a 1-month trial of Skillshare. I really think it's worth your time. But otherwise, thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.